Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazo.
Hey friends, God bless you. Thank you for sharing the show. And I want you to bring up a website, or you have it handy to look at later. It's jcfilms.org. That's jcfilms.org. I want to thank Carol from Las Vegas, Nevada, for sending in a donation to Worldview Matters. We've got Nevada in the house. So for those of you keeping score at home, we've heard from Wisconsin, Maryland, Ohio, California, Wyoming, Washington, New York, Georgia, Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota, South Carolina, Virginia, Iowa, and Minnesota. I already said Minnesota, and Nevada. So thank you guys. Thank you for your support of Worldview Matters. So today we're blessed to tell you about JC Films. I've got Jason Campbell with us. He's the president of JC Films Studios. He started JC Films in 2013 with a passion to change the culture through film. He's a graduate of Liberty University and currently lives in West Virginia. JC Films has been producing faith and family films, and their mission is to change the world for Christ while providing people of faith with the opportunity to be involved in Christian films. They've produced over 80 faith and family films so far. So Jason Campbell, welcome to Worldview Matters. Good to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you. You just mentioned Nevada. I just got back from Nevada. We just shot a Christian film in Nevada.
Awesome.
What a great little town Las Vegas is. You know, Vegas gets a bad rap. I think it does, because if you go outside of all of that nonsense, there's some good people there, some good churches, good believers, and they've got stories to tell. So we just left there and just shot a film there in Henderson, Nevada,
Very cool.
which is a little town outside of Vegas. So we had a great time. We had a great production. So we're excited about Las Vegas and shooting more movies there.
Yeah, well, you can say that about a lot of cities, a lot of places in the country, which, we tend to think of blue states, red states. There are good, godly, Christian, conservative people in every state around the country. And there's in some states, they're just a remnant. So, Jason, before we get into JC Films, and by the way, I got in my email inbox, I got an email from actor Dean Cain, and I just want you to thank him for me, talking about JC Films. But let's talk about your background. You went to Liberty. Have you always been involved in media or in films? What was your interest, and how did you get to the point where you started JC Films?
So I grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia. That's the home of Chapstick and Jerry Falwell, and had the privilege to attend his high school, his elementary school, all the way through the system. Then, of course, graduated from Liberty. It's such a blessing. I worked for Dr. Falwell Sr. for many years. Had an opportunity to work in public policy with Pat Robertson and the Christian Coalition back in the day. So I worked in D.C. for several years doing public policy. And, I've been in the ministry for a long time, and it was probably about 14 years ago. The Kendrick brothers had made a film called Facing the Giants. They made another film called Flywheel, and of course, Courageous and Fireproof. And it just really got me interested in filmmaking. And we were able to see that films can change the culture. And Christian films, there was such a need for them. There was such a need for biblical stories, redemptive stories that change the culture. So I personally kind of just shifted gears from public policy work in DC and got involved in making Christian movies. I started this thing with Eric Estrada, of all people. So Eric and I made about 4 or 5 films together, and we toured these films around the country. Now, we didn't tour them on a motorcycle, but we literally went from church to church to church showing our movies. And while Eric was there signing autographs and meeting the folks, people would come up to me and they said, well, who are you? And I said, well, I wrote the film and produced the film, and started chatting with people and started hearing their stories. Jesus told stories under trees, and he changed the world. And so that's kind of what we're doing with JC Films, and the fact that we all have a testimony. We all have some story how God got involved in our lives. And those stories really change the way people look at Christianity. They change the way people look at the world, change the way people look at God. And so we basically take these stories and turn them into films. People like Eric Estrada, people like Dean Cain, people like Kevin Sorbo, they're involved in our ministry. And we're making about 20 films a year now, just telling people stories and trying to change the world.
I love it because obviously with all the junk, not all, I mean, Hollywood puts out a lot of garbage, but there are some good family-friendly films. What's interesting, Jason, I want to get your take on this. A lot of the animated features or the G or PG rated, the family-friendly films, they do very well traditionally and historically at the box office. But Hollywood puts out so much of the junk, the garbage, the R-rated films, and the whatever else. What are your thoughts on that? Because, in other words, they're not really in it for the money. Otherwise, you'd think we'd see more family-friendly films. That's the audience. There's a big audience demand for that.
Well, I think two things on it. One is, when The Blind Side came out, they considered that to be a Christian film, if you think about it. Now, the fact that they prayed over Thanksgiving and that the young man went to a Christian school. Yeah. However, it kind of woke up Hollywood, and they said, because if it's money involved, Hollywood's going to be there. The issue becomes they can't tell these stories because they don't know Christ.
Right.
And that really becomes the underlying issue. They can't tell the story of Noah because they don't know the story of Noah. They don't really know what God did with the flood. Then they create this Noah movie, which is a complete disaster.
Oh my goodness. Russell Crowe, yeah.
All that nonsense. And the reason they don't do it, it's not because of the money, because if there was money, they would make them. The issue is they can't make them. I speak with filmmakers all the time that aren't believers that want to get involved in this genre, this faith, redemptive storytelling, stories of Christ. They can't tell them because they don't know him. And so that gives us a lot of job security as believers that this is kind of where we are. I think that's one thing. The other thing about Hollywood and creation of Christian films, this whole thing is just starting. Christian films are basically at its infancy stage. And so we've put a huge emphasis on getting people of faith, creative people of faith involved in Christian filmmaking. It's not one of these things, we can't do it. Of course you can. Technology has changed, cameras have changed. And so that's why we operate 24 production clubs across the world, literally, most of them here in the United States. That are challenging church communities, people of faith, creative people of faith to be able to use their acting, their cinematography. Look at all these young people that are running around with their TikTok videos with some creative cinematography. Now, if we can take that and harness that and put them into wholesome, good stories, we'll combat the Hollywood. We'll combat them. We'll combat for every sleazeball movie they make. We make a positive film, and we're going to combat the culture by making positive and Christian movies.
Another thing I want to get your take on, I've been impressed at the quality of Christian films that we didn't have 25 years ago.
Right.
The quality is amazing now. And so I really appreciate what you guys are doing. But just your take on what you've seen as far as the standards or the changes in the types of Christian or family faith-based movies that are coming out now.
Well, look at it like Christian music. 50 years ago when Christian music came out, it was basically the quartets. It wasn't good quality. It wasn't the big things that we see now on the radio with K-Love. But think about now, K-Love's one of the most popular radio stations in the entire world right now, and that's all Christian music. So Christian films is kind of at that infancy stage where it's like we're just getting better. And think about if we can get this next generation, harness that creativity and that imagination and be able to use their creativity and imagination to take Christian films where Christian music is now. So if you look at the industry of Christian films, it's only getting better and it's at a ground level. So our big thing is encouraging people of faith and encouraging people that are creative to get involved right now.
So, Jason Campbell, walk us through some of the navigation bars on your website. You've got events, you've got casting, films, upcoming films, film camps, and production clubs. So, start with whatever you want.
Well, we open up all our casting to anyone, so they can go to our casting page and they can say, "Hey, they're casting these films. They're all over the country, whether it be in West Palm or whether it be in Kansas City or California or even here in West Virginia." Then you've got our events. These are things that are just going on with our ministry right now, whether it be a production, whether it be a casting. This is also for people to pray over the ministry and say, "Hey, I see they're starting production of this film in Georgia. I'm going to take some time to pray for this certain thing." The films are films that we have currently that are currently as part of our library that are out. Our upcoming films are films that we're working on right now that we're getting, in pre-production, as you want to call it, to get ready to start production on. Our film camp, I tell you, man, this thing is blowing up. We're offering opportunities for not just young people, but now adults. We're about ready to sell out of our film camp that we're doing, 6 months from now. This thing's getting young people to come to camp. Dean King comes, he spends a day with the folks. This just gets them energized, not just to go out and change the culture through film and creativity and storytelling, but they get to meet people that say, "I'm not different. I'm a creative and I want to do this, and I'm going to be around other people like that for a week." And so we've been doing that during that week. They make a film, they're learning about film. That's something that's really powerful. Last year we had 16 kids come to know Christ because of film camp, and that made it all worth it. That made it all worth it.
That's great. And like you said, you have adult film camps and kids film camps. So kids can learn in a different way and adults can learn more of the trade, I'm guessing, and more how to get involved.
Yeah. I found out that here, moms and dads are sitting there and they're saying, our kids have the acting bug. See, I believe there's a thing called the acting bug, and when you get it, it's worse than COVID. But when you get it, you've got to do something with it. And if we can find places for these kids to be involved in a safe place, that they're toning their craft, they're acting, they're getting involved, they're being creative, that's a wonderful thing. But the other thing I found out is older folks like myself and you, I don't know how old you are, but they had the acting bug in college. They were in theater. They did high school plays. Then life happened, right? And they had to raise their kids. And now the kids are gone. And they're sitting around saying, "I still want to be on stage. I still want to be in a film. I still want to use my creative gifts that God's given me glory." And so we're finding these 50, 60-year-old people coming out and saying, "Cast me. I want to volunteer. I want to help you. I want to be a part of this." So that's kind of exciting too.
So Jason, how can we get you to Wisconsin?
Hey, we had a casting call in North Canton, Ohio, and a young girl from Wisconsin drove all the way down to be a part of that film. And she told me, she said, "I'm coming down. I'm gonna be a part of it." And it was great.
Wow. So I'm reading a little bit of some of the bullet points. You've got faith and family production clubs across America offering education and opportunity for people of faith to get involved. Is that what you were just talking about, the film camps and the casting and things like that?
Yeah, so our production clubs are literally independent communities. We have them all over the country, from Orlando to West Palm Beach to California. We have one in Hollywood. And this gives these are independent clubs. They meet in their churches, community centers. They write their own scripts. They create their own content, all underneath the banner JC Films. But they're making their own films. Most of these clubs that are on your screen right now have all made at least one movie. Dean has been gracious enough to travel to these clubs and get them going, and he stars in most of the films that they make, and some of them are good and some are decent, but it's the beginning of something. They're in their own communities. Some of these clubs are meeting every month. They've got 100 people in attendance, and it's not so much about the filmmaking and creative part. It's also in the fact that they're getting together, they're carrying each other's burdens, they're praying for one another. These are creative types that are coming together and saying, "Hey, let's write some scripts, let's tell some stories, let's make some movies." And so if your audience just is interested in JC Films, or saying, "Hey, I've got the acting bug," or I've got an idea for a film," find one of these clubs, connect with them and say, "Hey, when's your next meeting? I want to be a part of this."
Awesome. Well, it piques my interest as well. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of people are going, that sounds really fascinating. Anyway, we've got to take a break. We're with Jason Campbell, jcfilms.org. We'll be right back on Worldview Matters.
Today's show is brought to you by Harbinger's Daily, world news biblically understood. Stay informed at harbingersdaily.com.
So if you're listening to Worldview Matters via audio podcast, we're on Apple, Spotify, other places where people just want to listen on their headphones or take us on an app or somewhere. We'd love for you to help us out. And a big thing you could do is leave a 5-star review to help our show rise in the rankings. I didn't know there were such things, but yes, I guess podcasts are ranked, and you can really help by getting us a 5-star review. Also, it's growing very, very fast, and we're thankful for that. And we'd love the opportunity to help promote like-minded business sponsors to our audience. If you're interested in possibly being a sponsor of worldviewmatters.tv, please send us an email. Let us know you're interested, or maybe a business or someone you know. We're very blessed by Harbingers Daily and others who have sent in donations, but you can be a sponsor of the show. So go to worldviewmatters.tv, send us an email. We're back with Jason Campbell of jcfilms.org. So Jason, this came across my news feed, and I'm not surprised when you see demonically inspired artistic work the world puts out. We're not surprised by it. But this is on Amazon Prime. They're doing a show, I guess, called Has Been Hotel. It's about Lucifer. And basically, any of these shows, a lot of them they want to mock the truth of the Bible and the truth of Christ. They want to mock God. Sometimes they mock believers. But this one, apparently, Eve hooks up with Lucifer in the garden, and they go their own way. It's just I was reading some of the notes and some of the bullet points, and I'm thinking, okay, this is just great for people that know nothing about the Bible, because there's a lot of biblical illiteracy. So people are going to go, oh, okay, that's a neat story. But it's made up and it's demonic. But your thoughts on that, because I know this kind of thing is one of the many reasons you are doing what you do, right?
Absolutely. I think if Satan has his way, the fact that he just jokingly comes around as being this, we do that all the time. If you think about it, it's like he's not real. That's the big thing he wants everyone to believe, is that he's really not a real guy, but he is. And we make these things in Hollywood. We do this in our cartoons all the time with our kids. It's just a joking little figure of Satan and the devil with his pitchfork. And this is all part of the whole thing. If we can make him not existing in our culture, then it's nothing that we need Christ for. So if he's not real, then Christ can't be real. And so it's just a continual effort of mocking our religion, mocking who Christ is. And, it's sad, but one day the judgment will sound and there will be. But our young people are probably our worst, that, just not going to believe any of this. And when you start looking at Sunday school attendance is coming down with young people, those type things break my heart. And that's why we really reach out, through our film camps and try to get as many young people. Young people are interested in film. They're interested in technology and cameras and all this stuff. And if we can just harness that kind of stuff to our young people in a positive way, I am all about it.
Amen, brother. Yeah, Satan is the great counterfeiter, and there's a lot of deception out there in some of these forms of so-called entertainment. But we're not surprised. Again, we're not surprised by what the world does, and they don't know any better. They're not saved. They don't know Christ, so we can't mock them. I mean, there's nothing to mock them about, but they need to hear the gospel and be saved. But there's a very fascinating page on your website, Jason Campbell, that piques my interest greatly. It's called Awake, Not Woke.
Yes.
And if you click on that, there are some films. I see Kevin Sorbo there, Dean Cain, and there are some films, A Taste of Praise, Cancel Me Not, and some others. Tell us, our audience would really probably want to know more about that page and some of those films.
So I love public policy. That's my thing. And so for years I worked on the Hill, with Pat Robertson, the Christian Coalition. I'd love fighting the culture that way. And then all this woke stuff came out. And initially, my wife and I were talking about, let's just stay away from that. Let's just keep doing redemptive stories. Let's just tell stories, blah blah blah. And I said, I just can't. And I started hearing about the Colorado baker and the things he went through, this cancel culture, this transgender swim stuff. All these things just started hitting me, and what really happened with Twitter? What really happened there? What's the story behind the government, its involvement in all of our social media? And it really wasn't out of my wheelhouse, but it was like, we've got to do something. And of course, Kevin Sorbo is just leading the charge right now on this woke culture and going after Disney and really standing up strong for it. And I give him a tremendous amount of praise for that because he told me the other day on the telephone, he does all these Comic Cons. It was Hercules, and so him and Dean they go to the Comic Cons, and people remember them back in the day when they were Superman and Hercules. He's been canceled from all that. He can't go to Comic Con anymore. I mean, that was part of his living, and he's done. They canceling, and I think about we just had to kind of get the record straight a little bit. What is the story of the Colorado baker? What exactly did he do? And the same thing with Twitter, same thing with cancel culture, same things with this transgender and swimming. What does it look like? In a safe way, of storytelling, but also biblical perspective. So I appreciate you bringing that up because it's something we're going to launch these films out, and we're really excited about taking these films to the culture.
Well, man, that page and those films, what you just described and what I read the descriptions, they're right up my alley. I mean,
nice.
That's what we need. By the way, how tolerant of the left to cancel Kevin Sorbo because of his faith and what he believes, right? They claim to be these they're the tolerant people, but they're the most intolerant of the biblical worldview. I want to talk to you about, because you mentioned A Taste of Praise is about a baker that declined to bake a custom wedding cake. This is the kind of stuff we need out there from our perspective, because the media is not going to share what the Bible says about marriage or how Jesus defined marriage between one man and one woman, or that we have this, the First Amendment, we can say, this is how I want to run my business. I do, but this story is great. Also, cancel me not. I love that. The fascination with canceling anyone we disagree with. I love that. Also, the truth. I'm just going through films, guys, on jcfilms.org. Untold Stories of January 6th, Twitter files, social media surveillance. I've been censored. I've been shadow banned. I don't know, Jason, I'm assuming that you in some way, through your personal accounts, or tell us a little bit about that, because this is something that a lot of our viewers and listeners can relate to just for putting it out there publicly as either a Christian or a conservative on social media and being censored or canceled in some way.
I mean, I go back to Kevin. Kevin had a huge following on Facebook. I had probably 1 million followers or something. One day it's gone. It's gone. It's history, and no explanation, no nothing, just completely gone. His Facebook page, he doesn't have a Facebook page anymore. So, a friend of mine called me and told me about the Twitter files. Of course, it was political, got my interest, because I love that whole thing. But the more I started reading the actual Twitter files, I started seeing, man, our government is monitoring everything we're doing on social media. They're monitoring everything that we're doing on our phones. It's demographic that they're looking at. It's all about the numbers. And it's kind of very, very scary how this all happened. It was kind of an explosion around Christmas, but it's over now. But all of this stuff is still happening with the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security. All of this stuff is monitoring. And, even with my little film company, I see all that. I rely on social media. I do rely on a lot of this to get my message out. And if they don't want that out, they will they'll shadow ban you.
Yeah, I just read a story a couple weeks ago about the government. They're triggering not that. What are they doing? They're working with banks. Banks are telling the government, "Hey, this person applied to get a gun or something or a loan." And then the other thing that was flagged was people who bought Bibles. Our government. What business is it of our government to be? Well, I don't care. They're interested, but to look into or to flag people. So we're the extremists, right? We're the Christian nationalists or the domestic terrorists, right? So they're putting this narrative out there. So we need films and we need things that you're doing to put the truth out there in a way that it's family friendly and people can go, oh, okay, because you're not going to hear it in the media, corporations, Hollywood. Your final thoughts, Jason? We've got about 3-4 minutes left, but go ahead.
Well, I'm writing a film right now called Aftermath. The film is about what happens after the rapture, the tribulation. It has to do with a bunch of kids. And in writing it, I'm thinking about all this. This is where we're going. We're heading that way. So when we see things like the government interference, and we see things like the vaccine issues, and we see things like all of these things that are happening, it's really preparing us for that. So when that does happen, it's not such a massive shock when all these millions of people are disappear, the explanations that come in after that. the reason why you have to take this vaccine or create the mark or have the mark or $1 system. It's not that far-fetched from how far we are now, from what's happening in our culture right now to what will happen that's prophesied by Christ when he returns. It could happen, and we probably won't get that too frightened by it because we've seen all these little tiny things leading up to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We man, we are in the last days. Things are very dark. I mean, there's some things you and I can look at and think, I didn't really know I'd see this in my lifetime, as far as Bible prophecy or the culture, the decline of morality. But I wanted to just remind people, you are on Facebook, JC Films Presents, JC Films Presents on Facebook. The website, of course, jcfilms.org. And people, of course, can get involved, but they can also support you financially. So where can they access, other than jcfilms.org, maybe that's the best place, some of your films?
Well, we have our own streaming platform. It's called JC Plus, and that's on Roku, Apple TV.
Awesome.
So they can go to jcfilms.org and they can sign up. We have over 250 faith and family films. Have a great kids section. So moms and dads, just go to JC. It's just called JC Plus. Subscribe to it and get all your. We got preaching. We got it all there. So this is your one-stop channel.
Awesome. JC Plus. Is that a link at JC Films or is it at its own website?
Yep. Nope. They just go there and they just hit subscribe and boom, there they go. And now they've got content galore that is not going to embarrass anybody in the family when they watch a movie or watch a cooking show or watch a kid's show, or it's all family all the way around the board.
Awesome. jcfilms.org. So you got your own streaming platform. What are you, afraid of being canceled?
Well, I have friends that put all their films on YouTube, and I said, you'd be gone in a minute, so I'll just start my own.
I'm gonna just a plug for my brand new book, Assault on the Image of God. My first interview, I posted it on YouTube. Pastor J.B. Hickson out of Colorado interviewed me on my new book, and that was pulled off, deleted without warning on YouTube, deleted in a matter of hours. And it didn't meet their community standards because I talk about what you guys talk about, the battle with the transgenderism and other things, but they yanked that interview. I don't know what triggered them, but this is where we're at. Jason Campbell, thank you so much. I love what you're doing. We want to get behind you and send people your way. So let's stay in touch, okay, brother? God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you.
All right. Guys, this is just something that we all need to be encouraging other believers to be a part of and spread out, some of these good film studios that put out family features, faith features, good films, quality films. And that's what we need to be about. Hollywood's not going to spend a whole lot of time or money doing that. But anyway, guys, we appreciate your sharing the podcast as always. Thanks for watching or listening. God bless you, and keep speaking the truth about things that matter.